Brother got the $3 million farm. I got rocks. Guess who's driving a Lexus now? My old man used to divide the world into two kinds of people, those who make money and those who work. My younger brother Todd, in his $2,000 suits with that teeth-whitening commercial smile, he made money. Me, in my Carhartt overalls with permanent grease stains under the fingernails, I worked. Guess which one Dad thought was smart? I am 41 years old. I fix tractors. I patch fences. I wake up at 5 in the morning because cows do not care about your sleep schedule. Todd is 38. He sells houses to rich people in the city, drives a Lexus that costs more than most folks around here make in 2 years, and shows up to family dinner smelling like expensive cologne and entitlement. Mom died when I was 19. Ovarian cancer. Brutal and fast. After that, it was just me, Dad, and the farm. Todd went off to college on a business scholarship. Came back with a degree and an attitude. I stayed. Someone had to. The farm is not huge by Iowa standards. 200 acres of decent soil, some pasture, a barn that's seen better days, and the main house where Dad lived. I had the old foreman cottage, about a quarter mile down the dirt road. It is small, but it is mine. 1 bedroom, a kitchen that barely fit a table, and a porch where I drink my coffee every morning watching the sun come up over fields that have been in our family since 1947. Dad got sick about 2 years ago. Pancreatic issues, then his heart, then just old age piling on like vultures on roadkill. He could not work anymore, could barely walk to the bathroom some days. So I did what I always did. I handled it. I kept the place running. I dealt with the equipment breakdowns, the vet bills, the property taxes, the whole circus. Todd started showing up more often once Dad got really bad. Every couple weeks, he would roll up in that shiny Lexus, park it where it would not get dusty, and stride into main house like he owned the place. He always brought papers. Important papers, he would say. Legal stuff, financial stuff, things that apparently required his expertise. I remember one Saturday morning, I was under the old Chevy pickup, trying to replace a rusted fuel line. My back was killing me. My hands were black with grime, and I heard that familiar engine purr. Todd walked over, still in his dress shoes, and looked down at me like I was something stuck to his soul. He said, "Hey, Mark, you checked the oil level on this thing lately, or are you just waiting for it to seize up?" Not a question, a statement. Like I was some kind of idiot who did not know how to maintain a vehicle I had been driving since I was 16. I did not answer. I learned a long time ago that with Todd, silence works better than arguing. He mistakes your quiet for stupidity, which is exactly what you want him to think. Dad started changing around that time. Or maybe Todd started changing him. Hard to say. But suddenly every conversation I had with the old man felt supervised. Todd was always there, hovering, jumping in with comments about how the north pasture fence was sagging, how the barn roof needed work, how I should call a professional for this or that. Then came the power of attorney. Todd explained it to Dad one afternoon while I was out fixing the irrigation system. By the time I got back to the house, muddy and exhausted, it was done. Todd had legal control over Dad's finances. For his protection, Todd said, so he would not have to worry about complicated tax stuff and medical bills and all that stressful paperwork. I just nodded. What was I going to do, argue? Dad was sitting right there, looking tired and small in his recliner, and he seemed relieved, like Todd had just taken a weight off his shoulders. Maybe he had. Or maybe he had just handed my brother the keys to the kingdom. Things got worse after that. Todd started managing Dad's stress levels, he called it. Apparently, I was a source of stress. Suddenly, I could not talk to Dad alone anymore. Todd was always there, or he would call right in the middle of our conversations, or he would schedule these family meetings where he would gently suggest that maybe I was not handling the farm as well as I thought I was. He had charts, actual printed charts showing maintenance costs and projected expenses. He would point to numbers and shake his head sadly, like a doctor delivering bad news. Dad would look at me with this expression I had never seen before, disappointment mixed with pity, like he was seeing me clearly for the first time and realizing I was not who he thought I was. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. I thought about that quote a lot during those months. I thought about it every time Todd patted me on the shoulder and told me not to worry my simple little head about the complex family finances. I had one escape. Tuesday nights. Every single Tuesday night without fail. Todd would sit in Dad's living room reading the Wall Street Journal, sipping some craft beer he brought from the city, talking about market trends and investment opportunities that went over my head like fighter jets. And I would go back to my cottage, open up my laptop that is held together with duct tape and prayers, and I would read the most boring documents on the entire internet. The County Council meeting minutes. I know what you are thinking. County Council minutes. That is where you draw the line between exciting and watching paint dry, and then you take 10 steps toward the paint. But my grandfather, Dad's father, he told me something when I was 15 years old. He said, "Mark, money does not hide in the exciting places. Money hides in the boring paperwork that nobody wants to read. Rich men pay attention to the stock market. Smart men pay attention to the zoning committee." Grandpa made a small fortune buying up land parcels around the county back in the 70s and 80s. Nothing sexy. Just weird little plots that nobody wanted until suddenly the county needed them for utility easements or road expansions. He would sell them back for 3 times what he paid. He did not read the Wall Street Journal. He read annexation reports. So every Tuesday, while Todd was being sophisticated in the main house, I was in my cottage reading about septic system permits and drainage disputes. Fascinating stuff. Real page-turner material. But I read every word. Every single word. Most of it was exactly as boring as you would expect. Traffic light installations. Budget allocations for the county fair. Heated arguments about whether to allow chickens inside city limits. Democracy in action, folks. But 8 months ago, I saw something. Just one line. Easy to miss if you were not paying attention. Item 60B. Consideration of zoning modification for infrastructure project. Public comment period extended. That was it. That was the whole thing. But there was an attachment reference. A parcel number. And when I clicked through to the county assessor database, which is about as user-friendly as a porcupine in a sleeping bag, I found the location. The old Johnson Quarry. Our land. Well, technically, it was a separate parcel. 10 acres on the eastern edge of the property. It had been in the family forever, but nobody used it. There was an old limestone quarry there from back in the day, shut down in the 50s. Now it's just scrub, brush, rocks, and an occasional snake. We called it the junk land, the place you dumped old equipment that was too broken to fix, but too expensive to haul away. Item 60B was about that land, about changing its zoning classification. Infrastructure project. That could mean anything. New power lines, cell tower, water treatment facility. Or it could mean nothing. Could be some bureaucratic reshuffling that amounted to moving papers from one file cabinet to another. I did not know, but I knew something Todd did not know. I knew this item existed. I bookmarked the page. Started checking it every Tuesday. The public comment period kept getting extended. Then the item would disappear from the agenda for weeks, then pop back up with slightly different wording. Zoning modification became zoning variance, became land use adjustment. The bureaucrats were dancing around something, but I could not figure out what. I did not tell anyone. Not Dad, not Todd, not even my buddy Ray, who runs a feed store and knows everything about everybody in the county. I just watched and kept fixing tractors. Todd thought I was simple. Dad thought I was struggling. They both thought I spent my Tuesday nights drinking beer and watching television like every other grease monkey in the county. Maybe I was simple. Maybe that parcel notation meant nothing. Maybe I was grasping at straws because I needed something, anything, to make me feel like I had some control over my life, while my brother systematically took everything that mattered. But my grandfather was right about one thing. Money does hide in boring paperwork. And item 60B, whatever it meant, whatever it was about our land. The junk land. The land that nobody thought about or cared about. The land that somebody at the county level cared enough about to keep bringing up in meeting after meeting. I closed my laptop that night, walked out onto my porch, looked toward the eastern edge of property where the old quarry sat in the darkness. 10 acres of nothing, rocks and rattlesnakes and rusted equipment. Or maybe not nothing. I did not know yet, but I was watching. And unlike Todd with his Wall Street Journal and his market analysis and his sophisticated investment strategies, I was reading the one document that actually mattered, the boring one. Dad died on a Thursday morning in February. Peacefully, they said, in his sleep. The hospice nurse found him when she came in for her shift. His hands were folded on his chest like he had arranged them himself, ready to go. I was in the barn when Todd called me. I remember because I was holding a wrench covered in hydraulic fluid, and when my phone rang and I saw his name, my first thought was not about Dad. My first thought was wondering what Todd needed to criticize me for today. He told me in that careful voice people use when they are delivering news they have already processed. Dad passed away this morning, Mark. Very peaceful. I have already contacted the funeral home and talked to Pastor Williams about the service. I will handle the arrangements. You just focus on keeping things running at the farm. I said okay. I hung up. I stood there in the barn holding that wrench, and I realized I did not know what I was supposed to feel. Relief that he was not suffering anymore. Grief that he was gone. Anger that even his death had been managed by Todd without my input. Mostly I just felt tired. The funeral was the following Monday. Standard small-town affair. Pastor Williams said nice things about Dad's work ethic and his faith. Todd gave a eulogy that sounded like a TED Talk about legacy and values. He mentioned the farm 3 times. He mentioned me once, in passing, as Dad's devoted caretaker. I did not speak. Nobody asked me to. After the service, after the cemetery, after the endless handshakes and casseroles from church ladies who meant well, Todd pulled me aside in the church parking lot. He had that expression he gets when he is about to explain something to me like I am 5 years old. We need to meet with Dad's attorney next week, he said. Go over the estate. Get everything sorted out properly. His attorney is in the city. I will text you the address. Try to look presentable. Okay. I nodded. Went home. Spent the evening watching item 60B on the county website, which had not changed in 3 months. Still just sitting there. Infrastructure project. Zoning modification. No new updates. The following Tuesday, I drove 2 hours into the city for the meeting. I wore the same clothes I wore to the funeral. My one decent pair of khakis and a button-down shirt that used to fit better before I started skipping meals to save money. My boots were clean, but they were still work boots. Steel-toed Red Wings that had seen 1,000 days of farm work. Todd's attorney had an office on the 14th floor of a glass building downtown that probably cost more per month than most people make in a year. Everything was chrome and leather and abstract art that looked like someone had spilled paint and charged $20,000 for it. The receptionist, a woman with perfect makeup and a smile that did not reach her eyes, looked at my boots like I attracted manure. She told me to take a seat, offered me water in a bottle that probably cost $5. I took it because my throat was dry and I had not eaten breakfast. Todd arrived 15 minutes later. 3-piece suit, tie that matched his pocket square, hair that looked professionally styled, even though he probably just rolled out of bed like that. He shook hands with the receptionist like they were old friends, called her by her first name. He saw me, and his smile dimmed just a fraction. Hey, Mark. Glad you could make it. He looked at my shirt. That is fine. This is just family business. Nothing formal. The attorney's name was Richard Kleinman. Late 50s, silver hair, handshake like a politician. He had one of those corner offices with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. His desk was the size of my kitchen table and probably cost the same as a used car. He gestured for us to sit in leather chairs that were too comfortable. Made you feel small. He had a folder in front of him with Dad's name on it. Tab dividers. Colored sticky notes. Professional organization. Todd sat back, crossed his legs, looked completely at home. I sat forward, hands on my knees, trying not to touch anything expensive. Kleinman started with the usual lawyer talk. Sorry for your loss. Your father was a good man. This is just a formality to execute his wishes. He opened the folder, shuffled papers. Todd glanced at his phone. not even pretending to be fully present. Then Kleinman started reading the will. The words washed over me like white noise at first. Legal terminology, whereas in heretofore, executors and beneficiaries. But then the specifics started coming through clear as a bell on a cold morning. To my son Todd, I leave the family home and all structures thereon. The main farmland consisting of 200 acres, more or less, as detailed in attached survey documents. All farm equipment, vehicles, and machinery. All livestock and associated assets. The contents of all bank accounts and investment portfolios, to be managed as he sees fit in a capacity as executor of this estate. Kleinman kept reading, but I stopped hearing the words. I was doing math in my head. 200 acres of good Iowa farmland. Minimum $3,000 an acre, probably close to $5 with the way land prices had been climbing. That was $1 million right there. The house, the barn, the equipment. Todd was looking at a $3 million inheritance. Easy. Kleinman cleared his throat, looked at me directly for the first time. And to my eldest son, Mark, I leave the parcel of land consisting of 10 acres, more or less, known locally as the Old Johnson Quarry, said parcel being separately deeded and located on the eastern boundary of the family property. Silence. Not the good kind of silence. The kind where everyone is thinking the same thing, but nobody wants to say it out loud. I just got handed the junk land, the wasteland, the place we use to dump broken equipment and forget about it. 10 acres of rocks and rattlesnakes. Todd was quiet for maybe 5 seconds. Then he put his hand on my shoulder. Heavy, performative sympathy. Mark, listen. He said it loud enough for Kleinman to hear clearly. Dad and I talked about this. A lot. Toward the end. He wanted to make sure you got something manageable. Something simple. No complicated property taxes. No farm management. No headaches. He squeezed my shoulder. I could feel the weight of his college ring pressing into my collarbone. You have been under so much stress. He continued. Dad saw that. He wanted you to have something you could handle. Just a piece of land. Your own space. No pressure. Kleinman nodded along like this made perfect sense. Todd kept going, building momentum now, convincing himself as much as anyone else. I mean, you could do whatever you want with it, he said. Put a trailer there. Start a little hobby farm. Maybe store some equipment. He paused and laughed softly. Heck, you could turn it into a tire dump if you wanted. Your own little kingdom of junk. He said it like a joke. But we all heard what it really was. This is your place, Todd said. Simple. Easy. Perfect for you. Kleinman slid papers across his expensive desk. Multiple copies. Tabs marked with a little sign. Here stickers in neon colors. Transfer of deed. Acceptance of inheritance. Tax documents. All very official. All very final. He handed me a pen. Heavy. Metal. Probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The kind of pen that makes you feel important when you hold it. The kind of pen that seals your fate with expensive ink. I looked at the deed document. Right there at the top. Legal description, parcel number, county records reference. Parcel 60B. The same parcel I had been watching on the county website for 8 months. The same parcel tied to item 60B. Infrastructure project. Zoning modification. The thing that kept appearing and disappearing from meeting agendas like a ghost that could not decide if it was real. My grandfather had another saying. He had a lot of them, most of them learned the hard way. He used to say, Mark, never correct a fool when he is doing you a favor. Let him think he is winning right up until the moment you cash the check. Todd was looking at me with pity. Genuine pity. He really believed he was doing the right thing, protecting his simple older brother from the complexities of real wealth and real responsibility, giving me something I could handle with my limited capacity. Kleinman was waiting, pen poised over his own documents, ready to notarize once I signed. I picked up that expensive pen. It was heavier than I expected, balanced, the kind of tool that makes you feel like whatever you are signing must be important. Todd was watching me. I could feel his eyes, waiting for me to object, to argue, to finally show some backbone and fight for what I deserved, waiting for me to prove I was exactly as simple as he believed I was. I gave him what he wanted. I let my shoulders slump just a little, let my hands shake just enough to be noticeable when I touched the pen to paper. I signed slowly, carefully, like a man who knows he is being cheated but does not have the education or the courage to fight back. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and that what stands in the way becomes the way. I thought about that as I signed my name 3 times, for times 5 times, on deeds and transfers and tax documents that gave me legal ownership of 10 acres of worthless rock. Todd saw defeat in my eyes, resignation, acceptance of my place in the family hierarchy, the worker bee acknowledging the queen. He did not see the calculator running in my head. He did not see me doing the math on infrastructure projects and zoning modifications and public comment periods that stretched across 8 months of Tuesday nights. He did not see me calculating what it means when the government spends that much time and paperwork on 10 acres of junk land. I handed the pen back to Kleinman. He notarized the documents with practiced efficiency. Stamp, stamp, signature, done. He made copies, slid them into folders, handed me mine in a plain manila envelope that felt thin compared to the thick leather portfolio he handed Todd. "Congratulations," Kleinman said. "The estate is settled." Todd stood up, straightened his jacket, shook Kleinman's hand with that firm grip that said successful businessman. Then he turned to me, put both hands on my shoulders like a coach consoling a player who just lost a big game. "I know this is not what you expected," he said, "but Dad knew what he was doing. Trust me, this is better for you. Simpler. You will see." I nodded, managed a weak smile, played my part. Todd walked me to the elevator, pressed a button for me like I might not know how, told me to drive safe, take care of myself, call if I needed anything. The elevator doors closed on his face, sympathetic and satisfied. I rode down 14 floors alone in that glass elevator, watching the city shrink below me. I held that manila envelope with my deed to 10 acres of junk land. Parcel 60B, the same parcel that someone at the county level cared enough about to keep bringing up in meeting after meeting. The same parcel tied to an infrastructure project that nobody had explained yet. The same parcel that my grandfather would have called interesting. Todd thought he had won, thought he had managed me perfectly, protected Dad's legacy from my incompetence, secured the family fortune for himself while giving me just enough to feel included. He thought I was defeated. I walked out of that building into February cold, got in my 20-year-old pickup truck that was parked next to a row of Mercedes and BMWs. Sat there in the driver's seat with the engine running, heat slowly filling the cab. I opened the manila envelope, pulled out the deed, read through the legal description one more time, just to be sure. 10 acres. Old Johnson Quarry. Parcel 60B. Mine now. Legally. Permanently. Signed and notarized and recorded with the county. I did not know yet what item 60B meant. Did not know if my suspicions were right or if I was just a desperate man grasping at straws, trying to find meaning in bureaucratic paperwork that might mean nothing. But I knew one thing for certain. Todd had just given me the one piece of family land that the county government had been dancing around for 8 months. The one piece they could not stop talking about in their boring Tuesday night meetings. The one piece that somebody, somewhere, thought was important enough to require zoning modifications and infrastructure planning and extended public comment periods. And he had given to me while calling it junk, while laughing about tired dumps and kingdoms of garbage, while pitying me for being too simple to handle anything more complicated. I folded the deed carefully, put it back in the envelope, set it on the passenger seat. Then I drove home. 2 hours through Iowa farmland in February, fields frozen and brown, sky the color of old concrete. I did not turn on the radio, just drove and thought, and ran calculations in my head that might mean everything or might mean nothing. When I got back to the farm, Todd's farm now, I drove past the main house without stopping, drove past the barn and the equipment shed and the pastures that used to be mine to worry about. I drove all the way to the eastern edge of the property, to the old quarry, my 10 acres, parked at the edge where the dirt road ended, got out, walked across frozen ground and dead grass until I was standing in the middle of my inheritance. Rocks, broken equipment, scrub brush poking through snow, wind cutting across open space with nothing to stop it. The kind of land that never made anyone rich, never grew anything worth harvesting, never did anything except sit there being useless. I stood in the center of my junk land kingdom, and I did not smile. Not yet. But I pulled out my phone, opened the county website, checked item 60B one more time. Still there, still pending, still mysterious, still mine. A month passed, then another week, then another Tuesday. Todd got busy being an expert. He listed the farm on Zillow with professional photos that made 200 acres of Iowa dirt look like something from a lifestyle magazine. He posted on Facebook every few days. Pictures of himself leaning against his Lexus with the barn in the background. Captions about family legacy and stewardship, and honoring Dad's memory. He got a lot of likes from people who thought he was inspirational. Me, I did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Every morning I would make a thermos of coffee, drive my beat-up pickup to the eastern edge of property, and sit on the tailgate of my truck staring at 10 acres of rocks and dead grass. Sometimes I would walk the perimeter, count the boulders, look at the rusted tractor frame that had been there since before I was born. My buddy Ray from the feed store asked me once what I was doing out there. I told him I was thinking. He said, thinking about what? I said about whether junk land is really junk if someone is willing to put in a will. He looked at me like I had gone crazy from grief. The hardest thing about poker is sitting still when you know you have a royal flush. You cannot smile, cannot fidget, cannot give any indication that you are about to clean out every chip on the table. You just sit there, calm, waiting for everyone else to bet themselves into oblivion. I was sitting still, waiting. Every Tuesday night, I checked the county website. Item 60B was still there, still pending, still maddeningly vague. Infrastructure project, zoning modification, public comment period extended for the 4th time. Something big was coming. I could feel it the way you can feel a storm building, even when the sky is still blue. Then, on a Tuesday in late March, it happened. I was in my cottage eating leftover chili straight from the pot because I had not done dishes in 3 days when my phone buzzed with news alert. Local news app. The kind of notification I usually ignored because it was always about high school basketball or city council arguments about stop signs. This one was different. County approves final plans for new Interstate 82 corridor. Construction to begin 2026. My hand stopped moving. Spoon halfway to my mouth. Chili cooling in the pot. I clicked the article. Started reading. Then reading faster. Then I put the spoon down and read it again from the beginning, because my brain could not process what my eyes were seeing. The state had been planning a new interstate highway for 5 years. I-82, a major artery that would connect our county to 3 neighboring states. The kind of project that costs billions and changes entire regions forever. The kind of project that requires environmental studies and federal approval and years of quiet bureaucratic maneuvering before anyone even knows it is happening. And they had just released the final route maps. I clicked through to the County Planning Department website, downloaded the PDF, 73 pages of technical drawings and engineering specifications. I scrolled through page after page of survey data and traffic projections until I found the map section. There it was, a thick red line cutting across the county, Interstate 82, and marked in bright blue every 10 miles or so, interchange locations, places where regular roads would connect to the highway, exit ramps, on-ramps, the spots where all the commercial activity would concentrate. Exit 24 was marked on the eastern side of our township. I zoomed in on the map, looked at the parcel numbers listed in the legend. Parcel 60B, my 10 acres, my junk land, my kingdom of rocks and rattlesnakes. They were not building an exit near my land. They were building it on my land, the entire interchange, the full cloverleaf, the on-ramps and off-ramps and merge lanes, commercial zoning for a quarter mile in every direction, gas stations, restaurants, hotels, The whole ecosystem that springs up around highway exits like mushrooms after rain. And Todd's farm, his 200 beautiful acres, his $3 million inheritance. I scrolled the map slightly west, found his property. It sat just outside the commercial zone, close enough to hear every truck that passed, close enough to smell diesel fumes and see the glow of gas station lights at night, but too far from the actual exit to be worth anything to developers. The technical term is acoustic shadow, close enough to get all the noise and traffic and hassle, not close enough to get any of the money. They had taken Todd's pristine family farmland and turned it into the worst of both worlds. Rural property with urban problems. No peace and quiet. No commercial access. Just a constant background roar of 18-wheelers hauling freight across 3 states. His Zillow listing just became worthless. Nobody wants to buy a farm where you can hear highway traffic from the front porch. I sat there in my kitchen, chilly, completely forgotten, staring at that map on my phone screen, at the bright blue circle marked Exit 24, sitting directly on top of Parcel 60B, 10 acres that Todd had called junk, that he had given me out of pity, that he had laughed about while suggesting I turn it into a tire dump. 10 acres that were about to become the most valuable commercial real estate in the county. My phone rang. Unknown number. Houston area code. I almost did not answer. I did not like talking to strangers, and I assumed it was a spam call about my car's extended warranty. But something made me pick up. Maybe curiosity. Maybe destiny. Maybe I just wanted to hear another human voice to confirm I was not hallucinating this whole situation. I answered. Hello. The voice on the other end was smooth. Professional. Texas accent. Mr. Mark, my name is David Hutchins, and I represent the Buc-ee's Corporation. We understand you own a very interesting piece of property on the Plan I-82 corridor, and we would like to discuss its future with you. For those who do not know, Buc-ee's is a Texas-based chain of travel centers that are less like gas stations and more like temples to American excess. They are massive, clean, famous for their bathrooms and their brisket sandwiches, the kind of place that becomes a destination rather than just a stop. And they were calling me about my junk land. I told him I was listening. He said they had been tracking the I-82 project for 3 years, had people monitoring every county meeting and planning session. They knew about Exit 24 before it was even officially announced. And they wanted first crack at purchasing prime commercial locations along the corridor. He said your property is exactly what we're looking for. We would like to make you a very generous offer. I asked how generous. He said $10 million. Cash. Close in 30 days. I did not say anything. Could not say anything. My brain had stopped working. $10 million. For 10 acres of rocks. He filled the silence. Said, Mr. Mark, I know that is a lot to process. Take your time. Think it over. We are prepared to be very flexible on terms. We really want this location. I said I would think about it. He said he would call back in 2 days. Gave me his direct number. Told me not to talk to anyone else before we spoke again. I hung up, set my phone down on the kitchen table like it was made of something fragile and explosive. Then I did what my grandfather taught me to do when someone offers you a lot of money. I did nothing. I did not call Todd. Did not call a lawyer. Did not tell anyone. I just waited. Because if Buc-ee's wanted my land bad enough to offer 10 million sight unseen, other people would want it too. And in America, when multiple rich people want the same thing, the price goes up. 2 days later, David from Buc-ee's called back. Asked if I had thought about their offer. I said I had. I said 10 million was generous, but I needed time to consider all my options. There was a pause. Then he said, what options? I said the options I am sure I will have once word gets out about this location. Another pause. Longer this time. Then he laughed. Not a mean laugh. A laugh that said he recognized he was dealing with someone smarter than he expected. He said, Mr. Mark, what would it take to close this deal today? I said I was not sure. He said, 12 million. Final offer. I said I would call him back. He did not sound happy about that, but he said, okay. That afternoon, my phone rang again. Different number. Oklahoma area code. Woman's voice this time. Very polite. Said she was calling on behalf of Love's Travel Stops. Said they heard I might be considering offers for property near Exit 24. Said they would like to end the conversation. I said I was listening. She said 14 million. The day after that, Circle K called. 15 million. It was like watching dogs fight over a bone. Except the dogs were billion-dollar corporations, and the bone was my junk land. I did what I always do when I am working on a complicated engine problem. I did not touch anything. I just listened, heard what each piece was telling me, waited for the system to reveal what it needed. What it needed was a lawyer, a real one, not Richard Kleinman with his expensive office and his loyalty to Todd. Someone who understood land deals and corporate negotiations and how to say no in legal terms. I hired a guy named Foster. His office was in the state capitol. He charged $1,000 an hour, which made me nauseous until he explained that his job was to cost me money in hourly fees, so I could make millions in purchase price. He said, think of me as expensive machinery. You do not buy a combine harvester because it is cheap. You buy it because it makes you money. Foster told all three companies the same thing. My client is entertaining offers. Submit your best and final by Friday. One shot. No negotiations after that. Friday came. The offers came in. Buc-ee's bid $20 million, $850,000. Love's bid $20 million, $500,000. Circle K bid 19.2. Foster called me. Said Buc-ee's won. Said they want to close in 3 weeks. Said congratulations, you just became a very wealthy man. How do you want to proceed? I said proceed. Accept their offer. Draw up the contracts. And do not tell anyone who does not need to know. 3 weeks later, I signed papers in Foster's office. A different kind of office than Kleinman's. Less glass and chrome. More wood and worn leather. Real work got done here instead of just theater. The money hit my account 2 hours after I signed. $20,850,000. After Foster's fees and taxes and various other bites, I would clear about $14 million. $14 million for 10 acres of junk land. For property Todd had given me out of pity while laughing about tire dumps. I should have felt triumphant. Should have felt vindicated. Should have felt something big and dramatic. Mostly I just felt tired. And maybe a little sad. Because this whole situation was proof of something I already knew, but did not want to be true. My brother really did think I was stupid. He really had manipulated Dad against me. He really had believed his own story about being smarter and better and more deserving. And he had been wrong about all of it. I was sitting in our local diner 3 days after the sale closed. Coffee and eggs. Tuesday morning. Quiet. Then Todd walked in. Not walked. Stormed. His suit was wrinkled. His face was red. His expensive haircut looked like he had been running his hands through it for hours. He saw me, came straight to my table, stood there breathing hard like he had just run a marathon. People in the diner got quiet. Small towns love drama almost as much as they love gossip. Todd did not sit down, just stood there staring at me with something between fury and betrayal in his eyes. He said, you knew. His voice shook. You knew the whole time. About the highway. About the exit. You manipulated Dad. You tricked me. You let me think you were too stupid to understand what was happening, and you played me like a fool. I took a sip of coffee. It was not very good coffee, but it was hot. Todd kept going, his voice getting louder. Said I am going to contest the will. Going to prove you had undue influence. That property was a family asset. You do not get to just take it. I am going to sue. Going to drag you through every court in the state until justice is served. I set my coffee cup down, looked at him for a long moment. Then I spoke for the first time since he walked in. I said, Todd, you were the executor. You had power of attorney. You wrote the will with your lawyer friend Kleinman. You decided who got what. You gave me that land. Called it junk. Suggested I turn it into a tire dump. Remember that. Your own little kingdom of junk. Those were your exact words. His face went even redder. I leaned forward slightly, kept my voice calm, said, and you know what, Todd? I believed you. You are the expert, right? The real estate genius, the successful businessman. I am just the grease monkey who fixes tractors. So when you told me that land was worthless, I believed you. Why would not I? You are the smart one. Dad always said so. I paused, let that sink in, said the truth is, I am glad you were the expert. Because if you had been a worker instead, you might have read those boring county council minutes every Tuesday night. You might have noticed item 60 be sitting there for 8 months. You might have wondered why the government kept talking about a tiny parcel of junk land. But you could not do that, Todd. You were too busy reading the Wall Street Journal. I took another sip of coffee, let the silence stretch, said, and even if you hadn't noticed, you would have needed to care enough about boring paperwork to dig deeper, would have needed to understand that sometimes the most valuable information is wrapped in the dullest language, would have needed to think like someone who works with their hands and pays attention to small details instead of someone who makes money and only sees big pictures. I looked him directly in the eyes, said, but you could not do that, Todd, because there are no pictures in the county council minutes, no graphs, no market trends, just words, boring words about zoning and infrastructure. And you do not read boring things. You read exciting things, sophisticated things, things that make you feel smart. He stood there, mouth opening and closing, no words coming out. I said, go ahead and sue me. Waste your money on lawyers. But you're going to lose, because every single document has your signature on it. You gave me that land legally, properly, with full knowledge and consent. The fact that you did not know what it was worth just makes you a bad real estate agent, not a victim of fraud. Todd turned around, walked out, did not say another word. The diner stayed quiet until his Lexus peeled out of the parking lot. Then everyone started talking at once. He did sue me. Of course he did. Filed papers claiming undue influence and fraudulent concealment, and about 6 other legal terms that boiled down till I got outsmarted, and I am mad about it. His case lasted 4 months. Cost him probably $200,000 in legal fees. The judge threw it out in summary judgment, said that ignorance of property value is not grounds to overturn a legal transfer, said that if every person who sold land for less than it was worth could sue, the entire real estate industry would collapse. Todd's farm still sits on Zillow. The price has dropped 3 times. Nobody wants it. Too loud. Too close to the highway, but not close enough to matter. Me, I bought a small ranch in Wyoming. Nothing fancy. 300 acres of grass and mountains and silence. No neighbors. No traffic. No brothers. I wake up every morning, and I do not hear highway noise or smell diesel fumes or deal with anyone calling me stupid. Sometimes I think about Dad. Wonder if he knew. If Todd had really convinced him I was incompetent, or if Dad had been in on it somehow. I will never know. He took that answer with him. But I know this. Dad was wrong about one thing. It is not about whether you work or whether you make money. It is not about your hands or your head. It is about what you pay attention to. Todd paid attention to dollar signs, to market trends, to looking successful for Facebook photos. He paid attention to all the exciting things. I paid attention to the boring things, the paperwork, the details, the stuff that nobody wants to read because it is tedious and technical and puts you to sleep. My grandfather was right. Money hides in boring places. In county council minutes and zoning committee notes and environmental impact studies that nobody reads because they are 73 pages of engineering jargon. The whole world is busy looking at exciting things. The stock market, the news cycle, social media. Everyone wants to be entertained, informed, engaged. Nobody wants to be bored. But boring is where the money is. Boring is where the truth is. Boring is where people hide the things they do not want you to notice. Todd called me stupid for 20 years. Called me simple. Called me incapable of understanding complex things. He was right about one thing. I am simple. I fix tractors. I read boring documents. I drink bad coffee, and I do not have a college degree. But I paid attention. And in the end, that was all that mattered. I own a ranch in Wyoming now. Bought it with cash. Todd owns a farm nobody wants. Bought it with inheritance and arrogance. We do not talk anymore. I do not miss it. Sometimes on clear mornings, I stand on my porch in Wyoming and look at mountains that have been there for millions of years. They do not care about money or family, or who is smart and who is stupid. They just exist, permanent, indifferent, real. I think about item 60B, about how a single line in a boring document changed my entire life, about how my grandfather's advice, delivered decades ago to a 15-year-old kid, turned out to be worth $14 million. Pay attention to boring things, because boring is where the truth hides. And I think about Todd, wherever he is, probably still reading the Wall Street Journal, still looking for the exciting opportunities, still missing everything that matters because it is wrapped in language too dull to hold his attention. I do not feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for everyone who thinks success means being exciting, who thinks intelligence means knowing impressive things, who thinks wisdom comes from sophistication instead of from sitting still and reading the paperwork that everyone else ignores. Dad divided the world into people who work and people who make money. He was wrong. The real division is simpler. People who pay attention and people who do not. I paid attention. I won. That is the whole story.